Welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Combat Corner, powered by Come On Now, the podcast. I am your host, Rudy Rodriguez Shomont, and I got a topic to discuss today. And let's just jump right on in on it. There's been a lot of talk about this top 10 list that ESPN has dropped on women's MMA, the top 10 women's MMA fighters of the 21st century. I mean, I would presume that's the only century because I don't remember any women's MMA in the 20th century in the 90s, but maybe there was, but I don't remember it really at all. If there was, I did watch the UFC back from 1993 and on, but I never saw a women's fight until the 2000s naturally. And the big thing that's been going on is the lack of Gina Carano on that list, a top 10. And the question that it exists, and there's all kinds of commentary on this right now because Gina Carano is apparently in a lawsuit of some kind with Disney, and ESPN is owned by Disney. Um, there's things that maybe she has said that have made Disney unhappy or what have you. I don't know the specifics of this lawsuit, but she apparently there's a lawsuit where she played Cara Dune in The Mandalorian. She sued Disney and Lucasfilms over her firing, claiming wrongful termination and discrimination. She was removed from the show after social media posts that were deemed controversial, including comments about COVID lockdowns, the 2020 election, and trans rights. Disney argued that Carano's posts did not align with the company's values and that they had a right to disassociate themselves from such speech. Carano claims Disney violated California labor laws that prohibit employers from sanctioning employees for their political activities. Mind you, think about that. California, the most liberal state in the country. Elon Musk's involvement. The lawsuit is being funded by Elon Musk, who has expressed support for Carano and has taken swipes at Disney. A judge has denied Disney's motion to dismiss the lawsuit, meaning the case is likely to proceed to trial. The case could result in a trial settlement or a court order reinstating Carano to the Mandalorian. That's just based on what is said here. Um, so the opinions are that ESPN deliberately held Gina Carano out of this top 10 because of this lawsuit. And from a wide lens, you could say that maybe that's true. And when I look at this list, I watched Gina Carano fight. I saw her fights when they happened. I've been watching MMA for many, many years. I mean, like I said, I've been watching it from inception of the UFC. And I watched Strike Force fights. I watched World Series of Fighting fights. I watched Elite XC fights. I watched all those different fights, those organizations. Of course, I watched Bellator, etc. And I've seen every single one of these fighters fight that's on this top 10 list. To share with you the top 10 list, you can take a look at it if you haven't seen it yet. This is the top 10 list. Top 10 list starts off with Amanda Nunes, Chris Cyborg, Ronda Rousey, Valentina Shevchenko, Joanna Jędrzejczyk, Rose Namajunas, Zhang Wei Li, Misha Tate, Megumi Fuji, and Holly Holm. These are the top 10 fighters according to ESPN. Now, I have an opinion on this list, which actually lends credibility to the argument that she was left off this list because of a beef. Because in a box, I would tell you, based on my opinion on MMA and having watched MMA and having seen all these women fight and seeing the evolution of women's MMA and just MMA in general, if you ask me who the top 10 overall fighters are in UFC history, in or in MMA history since 2000 for women, would I include Gina Carano on the list? And the answer is no, I wouldn't, based on that. So if you're basing it on who I think are the best 10, she wouldn't make my list. She hasn't fought in like 16 years. The last fight she had, she got knocked on her ass by just Chris Cyborg, absolutely pummeled, and she never fought again. It was the first fight in which she fought someone that was really her size, and she got smashed. Now, if we're talking about a different viewpoint and saying the most impactful, so you gotta use the right definition. If you're talking about the best, she's not one of the top 10 best. That's like saying Royce Gracie is one of the top 10 best MMA fighters of all time. You'd be absolutely out of your mind if you said that, because he's not. In 1993, 94, 95, yeah, he was that dude because no one else knew what to do. No one else knew Brazilian jiu-jitsu. No one knew how to counter a BJJ fighter. I mean, you rarely see, you know, wild triangle submissions or arm bars. Arm bars almost never happen in the UFC now. It's very, very rare. It's very rare that you see arm bars end the fight in MMA now. So you see rear naked chokes, but you largely do not see arm bars, triangles. You don't. You'll see triangles more than arm bars, but you're not going to see a lot of arm bars anymore. I mean, and forget about it. The way that Royce Gracie fought, he would use his gi to help choke you out, which you have no gi now. There's a reason that when he came back and fought Matt Hughes years later, got smashed. Like these guys, the evolution of the sport, these guys became so skilled. So if we're talking about the most impactful, Royce Gracie is the most impactful MMA fighter of all time. You can't even, there's not a debate. He is the inception of the UFC. Impactful. Best? No. And that's the way I view this conversation. Impactful, if you're talking about the most impactful fighters, women fighters of the 21st century in MMA, then absolutely Gina Carano belongs on that list. She's probably top 3, top 4 at worst. I mean, if you want to say she's 5th, that's really pushing it down, because you could arguably say she's number 1 when it comes to most impactful. Number 2, because the most impactful MMA fighter for women of all time is Ronda Rousey. It's not even. I would say it's probably not even close. It's not even close. Not probably. It's not even close. She is the most impactful women's mixed martial artist in history. She changed the game for women in MMA. But Gina Carano is probably second. Again, you got to understand definition. And this is where ESPN blew it. Because if they had just left this list as is, Amanda Nunes, Cyborg, Ronda Rousey, Shevchenko, Jadjevic, Namajunas, Wei Li, Tate, and Holly Holm, they'd been fine with another fighter in there. The second they put in Megumi Fuji, they lost credibility. That's where they got it. They exposed themselves. Not to mention, I disagree with the list. I disagree with the list. Off the bat, yes, Amanda Nunes, number 1, no question. Cyborg, number 2, to me, no question. Ronda Rousey, number 3, again, no question. Now we can have a conversation. Valentina Shevchenko, yes, I would probably agree there. This is where I completely disagree. To have Joanna Jędrzejczyk ahead of Rose Namajunas and Zhang Weili is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. She lost twice to both of them. How can you rate her number 5 of all-time best women's, again, top 10 women's MMA fighters, and you put her ahead of 2 fighters who beat her twice? Namajunas knocked her ass out. And she beat her by decision. Zhang Weili beat her twice. I don't understand how you can put her at 5, but because she has the longest title reign for the division, I don't give a shit. She lost 4 times in the division to the 2 people ranked below her. And Zhang Weili has lost twice to Rose Namajunas. Think about this. Rose Namajunas lost twice to Carla Esparza. Carla Esparza is not in this list anywhere because Joanna beat the brakes off Carla Esparza. Zhang Weili beat the brakes off Carla Esparza. There was a mental block for Rose against Carla Esparza, because if she had beaten Carla Esparza twice, I would tell you this: Rose Namajunas would be number 4, ahead of Joanna. I'm ahead of Valentina Shevchenko for me. Because when Rose Namajunas is on, she's a badass at 115. She's the best at 115. But now she's fighting at 125, and that's a decision she made. But there's no way in the world that you have Zhang Weili and Rose behind Joanna. No way in hell. It should be Rose at 5, Weili at 6, Joanna at 7, Miesha Tate 8. I probably would have Miesha Tate lower than that. I'd probably have Holly Holm ahead of Miesha Tate. Holly Holm's an interesting conversation simply because she beat Ronda and then she did nothing. She has some good wins, but once she beat Ronda Rousey, everything fell apart. She did lose to Tate, so I guess that's why you could put Tate ahead of her. But at that time, she was winning the fight. She got subbed in the 5th round. She was winning the fight. And she does have some. She did lose to Shevchenko. She lost to Durandamy. She did get, she lost to Cyborg. She got her head knocked off by Nunes. She has some good wins. She has a win over the current champion twice, Raquel Pennington. Does Pennington still have the belt? I don't even know anymore. Does she have the belt? No, she lost the belt. Sorry, Raquel Pennington lost the belt to Juliana Pena. But she did have 2 wins over Raquel Pennington. The problem is this Megan Megumi Fuji selection. And when you use the term, Fuji is often regarded as the forgotten legend in women's MMA, a true pioneer. All right. That language alone, you just opened a can of worms, ESPN. You opened a can of worms, and you clearly look like bitter Betties who have a problem with Gina Carano because you've expanded the definition. You've actually combined best and most impactful. So if you have best, if you're combining it now, because like I said, best is here, most impactful is here. If you're now combining them and making them a combination of both, to not have Gina Carano on this list is absolutely criminal in nature because she is absolutely one of the most impactful fighters in the history of women's mixed martial arts. It's not questionable. She made people watch. She was an attractive woman, and that was number one for men. She was attractive. She didn't look like, and that was also an appeal for a lot of men with Ronda Rousey, was that a lot of men consider Ronda Rousey attractive. That said, I mean, ESPN, they kind of look silly here because at the end of the day, Megumi Fuji has losses to Jessica Aguilar twice. Like she has her best win ever is Carla Esparza. If you look at her history, her best win is Carla. I don't care if she won 10 consecutive fights or whatever the hell and beat people that no one's ever heard of and that injuries cut her career short. Gina Carano walked away after 8 fights. That's why she's not one of the 10 best. Because if she had continued to fight, she probably could have racked up a whole bunch of wins. But at the time, it was basically her and Cyborg. And if Cyborg whooped her ass, I mean, there was no question that most of us thought that she would never beat Cyborg. So she hung it up and she got into acting and all that stuff. Holly Holm was a really good fighter. She stopped the Ronda Rousey streak. She stopped that hype. And I do think she's probably a better fighter than Ronda Rousey. But again, I think they did a combination of things. They did a combination of impactful and best. And when you do that, you make it a lot more complicated. I think when you look at best, it's easy. Amanda Nunes is the greatest women's fighter ever. It's probably not close. Even if you look at her early fights, I mean, she lost fights because she had no cardio. Even the fight she lost to Juliana Pena, that one fight she lost to her, that was a cardio issue. But yeah, overall, ESPN looks petty. And I know there was comments from different people, and Ronda Rousey said the one person she'd come back to fight would be Gina Carano. And I did see on another podcast, Black and White Sports, where they said, yeah, that would do huge numbers. Yeah, it would. It would absolutely do ridiculous pay-per-view numbers because people like spectacles. But it would be a horrendous fight. For Christ's sakes, Gina Carano's like 45, something like that. She got to be up there. I think she's not that old. How old is Gina Carano now? Gina Carano is 42. Ronda Rousey's got to be close to 40 now at this point. Um, Ronda Rousey's now 38. Like, I don't want to see that fight. If they did it, yeah. If they did say, oh, we're going to fight each other, I'm sure Dana White would book it. It'd be a main event of a pay-per-view, and it would do ridiculous numbers because Ronda Rousey had that drawing power. Ronda Rousey is the female Conor McGregor. I mean, she has that drawing attention. It's like when she fought Amanda Nunes. I don't know who really thought that Ronda Rousey had a chance in that fight. I didn't think she had a chance in that fight, but yet they made Ronda Rousey the bill. It was like Ronda Rousey this, Ronda Rousey that, and Amanda Nunes is a champion sitting here like, okay, and then she murders her. I mean, absolutely destroys her. In that fight, just absolute destruction. So it's one of those things where Ronda Rousey has that type of appeal and type of power to draw in lots and lots of fans, and it's a credit to her and her personality and her being so very polarizing. She you either love her or you hate her, but you're gonna watch her. It's the same thing with Conor McGregor. You love him, you hate him. Floyd Mayweather, you love him, you hate him. There's no in between, and most people pay to watch those guys lose because the arrogance that they bring forward. Um, those are my thoughts. I don't I don't I think ESPN basically left themselves open to be called petty and make this became embarrassing simply because you included a fighter in there who had no business being in there. Not to mention the 5, 6, 7 with Joanna Rose and Wei Li, when the two fighters who beat Joanna twice each are behind her. That's utterly ridiculous. Um, and then I mean, could Carano slide in as a 10 in terms of best fighters? I'd have to look at the women's fighters off the top of my head. I do think there's probably fighters that were better than her that are still I would still call better than her, like Jessica Andrade. Um, Probably would call better than her overall as a fighter. Um, she was a champion. That's one. I mean, I think Juliana Pena is excellent. She would probably. I think Juliana Pena is more credible than Holly Holm, to be honest. I think Juliana Pena has more credibility to be number 10 than Holly Holm, right? Just on this list. Certainly, if you would have slid in Juliana Pena at number 9, I would have no argument, none whatsoever, and remove Fuji, and then they would be able to say, "Well, we went with the 10 best." But in this case, because you added her, you really expose yourself to saying impact matters on the history of the sport. And if you're looking at impact on the history of the sport, if you're looking at impact on the history of the sport, it's Ronda Rousey, Gina Carano, Chris Cyborg, and then you're getting into heck, Amanda Nunes, Misha Tate, um, Fujumi, yeah, for sure. You're looking at fighters like that. I mean, you're looking probably more, and you're pushing Joanna, Joanna Rose, Jean Wei Li. You're pushing them down because I don't think they had the impact on the sport. Joanna probably had a bigger impact on the sport than Rose and Zhang Weili because of her title defenses. So, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comments. This is Combat Corner. Like, subscribe, follow, ring that bell, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Again, this is Combat Corner. Part by coming on the podcast. Come on now.